how our chief priests and rulers both handed him over to a sentence of death and crucified him. And we were hoping that he would be the one to redeem Israel. Jesus hears all of this and says to them, how slow of heart, how little able to believe you are. And they still didn't get it. He explained all the scriptures to them, and they still didn't get it. And they say to him, as he is leaving to go away, because it's a common thing in the Middle East to invite somebody to stay with you rather than have them be a stranger on the road. They invite him to stay with them, and he does. And what do they do when they go inside? It's supper time. They have a meal. And Jesus takes bread, says the blessing, breaks the bread and gives it to them. And then they get it. Then they understand that Jesus is risen. And he disappears. These are witnesses of the resurrection. And they go back to Jerusalem and they tell all those who are there, gathered around the apostles and disciples, they tell them what they have seen and heard. And as they walk into that room, they hear, Jesus is risen and he has appeared to Simon. In case we've forgotten, that's Peter. He has appeared to Simon. That same Simon who says in the book of Acts, we are all witnesses of the risen Christ. Now today is Mother's Day. We are witnesses to all the mothers in this church. Witnesses of their love and concern for us. The mothers in this room are all witnesses of their concern that those whom they have brought into the world will grow into the kind of people God has destined them to be. It's interesting to me that in this gospel today, these disciples on the road to Emmaus say to this stranger whom they did not at first recognize, they say to Jesus, we were astounded that the women saw the empty tomb. They were astounded. Now, why were they astounded? I don't know. They were astounded because women in that society were not highly prized. I would not be astounded. And I don't think any of us would. Why? When we think about what women do. Who went to the tomb first? Was it the men? Sorry, ladies, you can all shake your heads. All the men are going, wait a minute, I don't know. The women went to the tomb first. Why? Because of their concern for Jesus. That isn't to say the men weren't concerned. It's a different kind of concern. Mothers have a sense of the need for caring. And whether a child is 60 minutes or 60 years old, that concern always remains for a parent. It is the concern of love for those to whom they have given life. and they witness to that concern by their constant care. That is why today we honor mothers. That is why today we bear witness to mothers, that their concern has great meaning, not only for us as individuals, but for our society. And that's why Mother's Day is not just a holiday in the United States. It is a day celebrated throughout our world. Mothers witness to care and love. They are not perfect, but they bring the best of themselves to the lives they have borne. They witness to love. And we in our lives must witness to a love for Jesus in the same way. We are called by our baptism to be witnesses to the risen Lord. St. Peter speaks for all of us. We are all witnesses to the risen Christ. And when we are witnesses to the risen Christ, it is because we are living out what Jesus wants in our lives. That's how we witness. We don't just walk up to somebody and say, "Hey there, man, did you know that I believe in Jesus?" That's not what Jesus is talking about. It's not what St. Peter is talking about. What Peter and Jesus are talking about is living a life that is a witness to the resurrection. And so when we have the opportunity to help people who are starved for simple things like diapers, when we are able to buy a cake today in order to help children who need diapers and formula and all the other things to keep their lives going, as they will find in the new place here at God's Kitchen for Children. When we're able to do that today, right at the back of our own church, that witnesses to the resurrection. When we share our belief with our children about the resurrection of Jesus, then we are witnesses of the Lord to the children who understand that we believe. When we come here to church on Sunday and we drive by and walk by our neighbors' homes and they wonder to themselves, "I wonder where they're going," we witness to the fact that we believe in Jesus and that we know Jesus in the breaking of the bread. We come here in order to witness again to what Jesus did. He took bread, he broke it, he shared it with them. That's what happens to us here today. We will break the bread and we will share it with one another. And in that sharing, we recognize who Jesus is. And when we recognize him, we give witness to him by our lives. Jesus is calling us to witness to his life. Jesus is calling us to witness to his death. Jesus is calling us to witness to the resurrection that brings us new life. We are called today to be witnesses of the risen Christ. And when we do that, when we witness to Jesus, then we can say with the church throughout the world, he is risen from the dead. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.